If you're not informed,
If you don't know where you come from, you will never find where you're going.
When Nigeria is working, we will all know.
PDP and us are diametrically opposed.
oh yeah, Sahara TV, na them be the TV, the best TV, information, education, inspiration. Sahara TV, they get
I am from Sahara TV. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
information, education, inspiration. Sahara TV, they get mouth, they get mouth.
His work was motivated by his quest for the purpose of existence, creating a unique form of art as he explores issues relating to human emotions and identity against specific socio-economic backdrops. Often he uses himself as material for his performance-based work. His photography has been exhibited in his home country of Nigeria and across Africa and Europe. Abraham Oghobase's work is also part of private collections, including the Kiasma Museum of Contemporary Art in Finland. Welcome to Sahara TV, Abraham.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Abraham, you mentioned a few people as your mentors and also understudy in the likes of photographer Deji Ajose, acclaimed sculptor Uche Airoha, and French-Algerian Bruno. Now, how did these men inspire you to pick up the camera and do what you do, and how you do what you do?
Well, I think it's. I think first it started from the self, the idea of self, and trying to just want to discover who you are as a person. I've always thought, I've always knew I was an artist, but the medium of expression has always been the problem.
Right.
I tried music. But it just didn't work for me. I tried learning some instruments. It just didn't work. It wasn't clicking, And then I met with Deji Joseph, who happened to be staying in my neighborhood in Maryland, somewhere in Ikeja in Nigeria, in Lagos, where I was brought up and born. Deji Joseph he went to University of Bello, Zaria. He trained as a painter, but then became a photographer. He could relate to my quest for wanting to sort of explore the arts, and he thought photography was quite interesting, and maybe I should try it out. And that was how I started. I did understudy Deji for like a year, and Deji sort of taught the basics of photography. But Deji is very experimental with light, because he does this sort of painting with light. He does night photography a lot.
Right.
So I could see that it was sort of influenced by the idea of him being a painter. Mm-hmm. And then after the 1 year apprenticeship with him, I now met Uche James Iroha, who happens to be who went to the University of Port Harcourt and is a sculptor,
Right.
trained as a sculptor. And then he uses photography as a medium of expression mainly. But his work is sort of very sculptural, because his work is sculptural but also conceptual. So he does a lot of construction, and I think that comes from his background as a sculptor, because it does his work is, when I say conceptual and he makes construction, he doesn't just photograph what he sees. He constructs what he wants to photograph. He could use the human form, the human body. He could use objects, symbols, as a form for what he was trying to say. But then it's a deliberate attempt for him trying to make constructions, visual constructions of what he wants to say or what he feels. And after that,
That's when you got inspired by Bruno.
Yeah, I mean, after Uche, I got the opportunity to now exhibit internationally in the French. There's an international photography biennial in Bamako, and that was in 2005. So I was invited, and my work was chosen as part of the International Photography Festival. And then at that time, I showed a work titled Mysterious Minds, which sort of explored the mentally retarded people or the mentally challenged people on the streets of Lagos at the time. And then I was that was my very first work.
Okay, just before you go over there, because we're going to describe some of obviously your work that you've obviously got on your portfolio. But I know that you've been across Africa, like you just said, Bamako in Mali. You've been to Nigeria, you've been to Ghana, Mozambique, Botswana, to name a few, Europe and the United States, holding workshops and everything. Can you tell us about this zombification workshop that you did at, I think that's at the Goethe Institute in Lagos?
Exactly. Yeah. It was facilitated by a friend of mine, German friends of mine, Constanza Fischberg and Daniel Cotter. They are filmmakers, not just filmmakers. They make art films basically,
right?
And a sound artist as well. So I mean, they sort of had this idea of a conceptual workshop. So it wasn't like it was a workshop about exploring ideas and what does it mean. So the whole idea of zombification could actually mean different things to different people. So we're sort of exploring it, you know. So it was a workshop that has to do with how sort of exploring the whole concept of methodology, art methodology, and also how your process of thinking, how you can actually get to think about work and how you could find form for work. But then there was a subject matter, which was zombification. What does it mean to be zombified? You know what I mean? So it could be anything. So everybody was sort of, you know, referencing also. I mean, like Fela, for example.
Right. I was going to say, like, Fela used the word zombie for his part of his work. So I wanted to find out the parallels of your zombification and the way Fela had also expressed himself.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, for Fela, I mean, the whole concept of being a zombie was, I mean, he used it as a metaphor for the military government at the time in Nigeria. You know, so I mean, that was what the whole concept of being zombified meant to Fela at the time. You know, and to different people in the workshop, zombification meant different kind of things to them, basically.
Okay. Now, your lenses have captured numerous messages, emotions, and issues at certain times. And I would like to pick just a few. You had this work in your portfolio that says, "Are we humans?" So I didn't see the question mark, but I think you did this work in 2010. Yeah. Can you explain a little bit about this particular work?
Are We Humans is an extension of a work I did, which is titled Jam. And my work is basically, I mean, I love to explore the whole concept of space, but it could be physical space, it could be mental space. Right. But in that work, I think what I did was to sort of explore the whole idea of, you know, trying to just sort of, you know, connect with the fact that people have left a place, but to sort of connect with the remains of what people have left behind. To sort of see, I mean, it's sort of like investigating some, you know, I'm just curious to sort of see if I could connect to something. Is it possible to still have a trace of people after they've left a place? And I think that's what the work is sort of about, you know. So you could see, you know, just little things, objects and, you know, signs, you know, in the house. That's basically what that work was about. And it was actually done in the area I was brought up, in Maryland, in Mende. Okay. Actually, in Lagos, yeah. Yeah. Because my works are very personal. My works about me, they're very personal. So sometimes I use myself, or sometimes I can go the other route, you know.
Right. Yeah. You also touched a very sensitive subject and a very important one in that matter. This was the fuel subsidy, the protest. And I realized that in some of these images that you're portraying are shot from an aerial point of view, and the images have been kept gray and black,
Yeah.
or black and white, actually, in terms of photography. Why was this certainly done this way? Was it to paint a kind of dark picture of the moment that people were going through? Because I see thousands and thousands of protesters, but the shot is obviously from a bird point of view, you know, aerially and also black and white.
Okay, I mean, it was really very simple. It was a choice. It was a deliberate choice to sort of choose the kind of aesthetics I was going to use in presenting the work. And I chose black and white simply because I wanted to make do with the whole idea of making, I mean, because the work was about space, space and the populace, and how you had this huge mass of people and then they started decongesting. But then you had so much colors. And then I felt, you know, it was going to be distracting to see these colors. So I wanted to bring the focus to just the space. And you can only get that feeling of what I was trying to say by just making the image black and white. Because when it's black and white, you're just into the image itself and you're not really thinking about colors and you're not being distracted by colors everywhere. Because, I mean, there's a lot of texture with the human form in the image. But then, you know, you don't get distracted because it's just black and white. So basically, it was just an aesthetic choice that I decided to make the image black and white. So it becomes less of a painting, less of no, I mean, it's still a painting anyway. Less distracting. Let me put it like that.
Okay, I mean, they say that a picture speaks 1,000 words. You have this work where you're showing disturbing images of homeless people, and I think the majority of them are mentally retarded or mentally challenged, and this is in Lagos. So what drove you to go out and find these kind of images and show them out to the world in the way that you did?
I mean, at the time, for me, that was actually my first photographic project I did, and it's very special. Yeah.
I know this was sometime in 2003, 4, somewhere there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and that was my very first artistic project I made. First, you know, it's you had a lot of them in Lagos at the time, and I kept looking at them. That, you know, I kept, you know, connecting to these people. I felt it was important for me to sort of document, you know, this phenomenon, and because I knew it wasn't going to be like that forever, you know, so I felt, you know, and there was something also very, you know, attractive about it, you know, in the sense of the aesthetic nature of when you see these people, the texture, you know, it's something I sort of, you know, connect and empathize with, and I felt, you know, I could actually capture the aesthetics, which sort of, you know, photographically is very strong, but then, you know, narratively, it's actually talking about, you know, the homeless on the streets of Lagos, and not just the homeless, but the mentally challenged people. Right. You know, so it sort of brings up the whole argument, or brings about the issue of, you know, I mean, it sort of highlights these people, which I don't think they've been a lot of attention on them at the time. Are they making provisions for these people?
Right. Because I'm trying to think, like, have you never received any objections on trying to exhibit these kind of images in a foreign country or in a foreign exhibition, showing this kind of situation back home? Have you received any protests from the government or any authorities that say, for instance, you showed a picture of a man who's totally naked, standing in the middle of the street. Have you not received any protests or complaints from anybody?
Yes, I have actually. Right. But the thing is, you know, it's a part of a reality that I needed to document at the time, and but also I take responsibility for any work that I produce, you know. Because I'm an author, basically, but just that, you know, I use photography as a medium to sort of
tell the story.
Exactly, So at the time, that was what I wanted to talk about, And some people have reservation about the work, but some people, it means something else to them, I remember, like in Germany, for example, I met a woman, an elderly woman who was like in her 70s or so, and she witnessed the Second World War, I think. And the moment she saw the work, she started crying, and she said she wanted to see the artist. I wasn't around, so they had to. When I came over, for the exhibition, because the work traveled around Germany, and when I came over, they said there's a woman that would like to see me. So I went to meet her. She was a very beautiful old woman. I was like, oh wow. So
Wow.
And she could speak English, and she just said the work sort of reminds her of the Second World War and how people were starving, and that meant so much to me that the work was sort of, because there's no barrier, there's no line between poverty or lack or the whole idea of degradation. There's no line. It's
Fine
the same.
line, yeah.
Exactly. It is universal everywhere. So anybody could relate to it. One could relate to it somewhere in another way. Another person could relate to it. But it's the same. It is universal. It's a language that is universal. So, and I mean, in Nigeria, for example, somebody saw the work, and it was a guy, and the guy started crying. I was shocked for the first time to see how a work could,
Right.
Could actually trigger a lot of emotion. But then I tell you that after I made that work, I had a bit of a challenge with myself, because I wanted to see beyond, because I started out as a documentary photographer. But then I wanted to see beyond documentation. Rather, I wanted to start seeing who I was as a photographer and telling my own story. And now, that was, I started telling my own story when I traveled to Germany for a language residency. That was the first time I actually turned the camera towards me, and that was how I actually became a full-time conceptual artist and a mixture of performance as well. And that's how I started making use of my body for my work, because I became more comfortable to now tell my own story and sort of show my own vulnerability as a human being. And also because after I made that work, I had a lot of mixed feelings about, am I taking advantage of these people?
Right,
or not?
right. That's the question I wanted to say is,
yeah.
we have a lot of, I mean, this is across Africa mostly, where you have these homeless people and nobody seems to notice that they're there, no matter how naked they are or hungry or dirty. In other places, they have institutions where they're taken off the streets, whether by force, somehow, and taken care of. So after you tell that story, you show the pictures, the exhibition is great, people would probably want to know, is there a follow-up? And how was the reaction? Is the reaction coming from the people that you show these images to in the foreign places, or is your own government reacting to these images? Because sometimes it could be a way to embarrass them. Sometimes it could be a way to embarrass them into action. You understand?
Exactly.
So has that happened so far in Nigeria?
I mean, at the moment, I just have people actually addressing me point blank, face to face about, why did you take this photograph? Why are you guys fond of just showing a reflection of Nigeria or Africa in a very negative way? And now you guys are Africans. You guys should take responsibility to show Africa in a positive way.
Right.
But as I've said, I take responsibility for what I want to say and what I choose to say and how I say it. At the time, that was what I was interested in showing, and I hold no apologies in terms of showing that work, because it was also, for me, a way of sort of empathizing and sort of highlighting this problem in the society. And for me today, if somebody, for example, wants to collect the work, I want to actually give bulk of the percentage to the mentally challenged facilities that there's going to be somewhere in Nigeria. Might not necessarily be in Lagos, but somewhere, because I think I hold that responsibility to that work, because that's the whole essence of the work. It's not about collecting the work and then me just collecting the money and just say, okay, yes, I've made this beautiful work.
Talking about collection, You have a private collection, I think, in Kiasma, Museum of
Yes,
Contemporary Art in Finland. Can you
yes,
tell
I
us
do.
a little bit about this and how that works?
Actually, I mean, you make editions as an artist. I mean, photography. You make editions of work. I make edition of 7, 5 for the public, then 2 artist proof. So I normally sell five for the publics, and I have 2 artist proof. But then I was part of this exhibition, this group exhibition in Kiasma called Ars 11. Ars, ARS, is a Latin word that means arts. And it was like the 11th edition at the time. That was like 2 years ago in Finland. And it was really big. It was massive, really huge. It had the likes of Ella Natsui, Odile Odita, Otto Bongikanga, Pascal Martin Tayo. This Cameroonian artist. Emeka Ogbo.
Right.
Emeka Ogbo, what's this guy's name? He's a Cameroonian artist.
Okay, you don't seem to remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when they talk about the private collection, I think from what I read in your portfolio, the work under aesthetic was
Yeah,
what
exactly.
they
collected.
Yeah. I've seen that obviously you've touched on very serious issues, you've touched on sensitive issues. Aesthetic to me shows the freedom of just using your camera and, capturing even happy emotions, I might say.
Yeah.
So I don't know what other category this other piece of work fell under, because sometimes I know that you use yourself, like the images we've just seen, as material. Do you have to walk around with a tripod, or do you find another professional photographer to take the picture for you?
Yeah, that's a very lovely question actually. I work with tripod a lot. I'm a tripod freak,
Right.
and I use self timer a lot of the times. Depends on the distance actually. I use self timer, but if the distance is so it's actually far away or far off, what I do is that I just call a stranger, because what I do is that I compose the image, and then I can just call a random person and say, when I make this action, just click, and that's how I work. It's very spontaneous. I don't go to the location with anybody. A passerby, I could just call a passerby. It could be a child. It could be, like the aesthetic work, for example, was shot by a little boy actually. I just told him, when I jump, just click. So I jumped on this bus in my neighborhood. I think it was brought from America, and the bus was just sort of abandoned there. So every time I walked by, I kept looking at this bus. It was so beautiful. So it felt like we were having this romance, because I just sort of felt I felt some sort of connection to the bus and the aesthetic because I'm very particular about aesthetics, I mean, the beauty of things and how it looks and what it means to me and what it could actually trigger based on the color of the elements, in the objects. So
okay.
So I mean,
finish up. Yeah.
Okay. So there was this lovely day. The weather was nice, blue. I was like, wow. Okay, this might seem to be the day, and it was so spontaneous. So I had to run home. I brought my camera. It was a film camera actually. I brought my camera and then I brought my tripod. So I sort of composed the image, and at every point, I told this boy, just click when I jump. And even sometimes after I've jumped, I don't even know what the boy has done, whether he had clicked or not. So even the idea of actually not even knowing what you've done and just waiting to see, what you've done, the curiosity of even trying to see what you've done, for me, it's amazing, to actually look and now say, okay, this is what I want to do with the images. So that was how I came about that work,
So for an ordinary kid, you were born in Lagos, Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
For an ordinary kid in Lagos who's probably listening to you, who's probably seen your work, and who wants to be like you, what does it take to take the first step? He probably doesn't have the means to buy a camera or access to one. What does it take?
To be honest, I never bought a camera. I just recently bought a digital camera. But from the very first day, what it takes is your idea. What it takes is your idea and your quest to want to learn and research. and be open. Like, for example, my work is not just about photography. My work is about architecture, is about social issues, is about sound, is about, I love music. I listen to a lot of music, you know, so it's about it's about fluidity, the idea of the human body and movements. You know, what does it mean to use this as a metaphor for different things? You know, so for me, it's about opening up your mind. It's about your idea, you know, the concept. And then, you know, it's just organic. How you going to actualize this? People naturally get attracted to strong ideas and to passion, you know. So I would say have strong ideas and be passionate, and then it naturally just attracts the materials or the resources that you want to use to actualizing this stuff. This.
I mean, we're in the United States, and we see people carrying cameras a lot of times. Some of them very big cameras with very big zoom lenses, and they're busy spying on other people, you know, mostly celebrities, and we call them the paparazzi. Some of them have actually, a couple of weeks ago, got killed, you know, in pursuit of Justin Bieber, who wasn't even in the vehicle. Why then do you think, because I guess they make a lot of money for just one shot, isn't that something that's attractive to you as well, to make money?
To be honest with you, I mean, everybody loves money, but the thing is, you know, there's a greater calling for me as a person. I'm attuned to my calling. I'm attuned to using photography as a medium to philosophize, to share, you know. And you know, I'm not I don't hold any grudges to people who do commercial photography or do that kind of photography. But you know, everybody has their calling, and for me, I'm not really interested in becoming a paparazzi. And you know, that's what they do, and they do it very well. You know, but photography is very wide, so I think I fall under the whole umbrella of contemporary art photography, if you want to put it like that.
All right. Thank you very much, Abraham, for joining us on our program today. I think you've given us quite a nice insight into what exactly goes on in your mind when you're obviously snapping those pictures. So we obviously are now fans of yours, and we're going to look out for more work that you're going to bring out. And hopefully next time you come to New York and you have an exhibition, please let us know, because we'd love to.
Yeah, I'm going to hit your studio too.
And come to our studio too. You're very welcome. So right now we're just going to call it a day, and stay tuned.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.